So today we're going to be covering the Trimtect application process. So there is this Foliar application guide that walks you step by step on how to actually do the application. So if you, let's say you start up doing applications now, it's fresh today, so you are going to be getting into the groove of doing it. But then you 6 months later, 4 months later, come back to it and it's like, how do I do this? How much audible, which is a surfactant, do I put in? This will tell you all the steps. So this is a good refresher. You will get this a PDF, so this probably will get lost in the paperwork in the office somewhere on the truck. Feel free to download it and just print it again, or just keep a PDF on your phone. I typically use my PDF only. I don't even carry a copy with me. But the process is simple. You can do a simple application with a backpack sprayer. I recommend using an electric backpack sprayer with a MD9 or a JD9 spray gun. That will be the best solution. The spray gun that comes with this is also sufficient if you are doing small applications and you don't want to do the investment on the spray gun. But I do highly recommend to use that spray gun. So Mike has the setup, so we'll show you that in a little bit and how that works. Okay, so about Trimtect, it is a growth regulator that is designed for woody ornamental plants. So we are not trying to treat lilies, annuals, anything that is bromeliads. So if you take everything else outside woody ornamentals, it narrows the list very simple. Now, what I want to tell you, you cannot treat, and I'll send you this information too, hibiscuses you have in this area. You may have some begonias odoradas probably, so you don't want to be treating begonias. They are not shrubs, but again, they get over-regulated. Hibiscus, what else? Azaleas. It's not that you cannot treat them, you have to treat them at 7 ounces, and they do amazing at 7 ounces, so you just have to lower the rate for that. Drift roses too, 7 ounces is what you want to be doing. Everything else, you're going to be doing them on the spring at 10 ounces, and or the late fall 10 ounces, but in the summer you're going to be doing 13 ounce rates here in this area. Okay, so we'll cover the rates again as we go through. So the main thing as far as expectation when we use a growth regulator is not that we walk away from the property for 3-4 months at a time and then we come back. No, you still want to keep a cadence to your property. Don't have to be exactly 4 weeks, but you want to come and do your inspections and making sure you are managing the scapes, which are the growth that comes out of a haircut. For example, when we are shearing a shrub, there's always a branch that we are going to create a haircut like this one here, right? So imagine this is not here. That is going to be only wood. We need succulent, green, soft tissue, leaves and stems present to absorb the chemical. Okay, if it's wood only, it's not going to get absorbed. Escapes so here and there. So for example, this would be an escape here. If this was having Trimtect, you had to come with a hand pruner and cut this. So if you keep your inspection, once a month, and I'm not saying come with the shears and just flat top everything, I'm coming with hand pruners and just cut those things. This hedge looks pretty good. If you just take those 2 stems off, maybe one over there, come back 4 weeks later and do the same again. Imagine how much debris, dump fees you save by not having to dump that. And that normally we don't track, but our labor that we use to trim just this island goes significantly down. You can focus on details, quality of your property, invest in other things. Maybe, price of fertilizer went up a little bit and you need to catch up on your fertilization on the turf. You can do that because you are saving money on other buckets, but you are keeping your budget for your customer overall within acceptable ranges, so you can make money at the end of the day. So that's the main expectation. Don't forget about your property, because Trimtect doesn't solve every issue on your property. Okay. So how much it lasts? In the research side, we say 8 to 12 weeks is the peak regulation time. It doesn't mean like at 8 or 12 weeks it's gonna just start growing like crazy again, like for. Yes, so that's based, and why 8 to 12 weeks is exactly because of that. Because if you are dealing with an Elaeagnus versus a boxwood, they grow totally different. So don't compare an Elaeagnus with a boxwood because they completely behave differently in nature. They will continue to behave differently even under regulation, but it will eliminate the maintenance drastically for Elaeagnus if you compare it to one that you are not treating. It's night and day. It's like I would not take a like I, if I have to go back to landscape maintenance, he has to sell me Trimtect. There's no other way I would do it because it's so difficult to, once you are using PERs, you know how they work. It's like, okay, I can maintain these properties, make money, keep my customer happy, be able to do more enhancement sales because my customer is happy, property looks nice, so they are more inclined to spend more money with you. That was my experience when I was using it. I double my enhancements because not because they would not spend money, it's because I had the time to put more proposals in front of them at the end of the day. So, what else? So how it works? So you have been applying Trimtech already, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
So before we jump into this, what has been your experience? What have you seen that works? What you have seen that didn't work?
I think compared to the other products we were using, the growth is a lot more natural looking, and it doesn't seem like it affects the plants. There's not a lot of chlorosis or miscoloration when using this product. So I really like that. Downsides maybe timing, really. I mean, if we get a significant rain event after application, it seems to lessen the efficacy, but that's really with anything. But no, I don't have too much for downsides. I think a big part of it for us will be not only getting the application right, but as you said, the tipping afterwards, the maintaining of the plant material is a big thing that we need to work on and get correct on our end as well.
Okay. All right. Cool. No, great feedback. On your end, any feedback? Have you used this product or not yet? Not yet. First time. Okay. Perfect. So he made some great points on the product. So as far as the good stuff, that's pretty much why I like the product, because it didn't create any chlorosis. It enhanced the look of the plant. To me, it's more flexible than compared to Atromec, for example. Atromec, you have to be behind the guy that is trimming pretty much. This product, you can come back a few days later, a week later, as long as the plant has the shape, you can treat the plant. As a matter of fact, if the plant looks good today, you don't have to actually prune the plant. You can just go ahead and treat it right then, as long as you have the tissue necessary for the application. One of the things that he mentioned was about the efficacy of the product after a rainfall event or an irrigation event. The rule of thumb is if it rains more than 30 minutes after the application was done, you should be fine.
30 minutes?
Yes, 30 minutes. Once the product dries, it's already absorbed into the plant material. The absorption stops once the product dries. Okay. So there's no more absorption after that. So if it rains an hour later, we will be okay. If it rains while we are doing the application, yes, those last 30 minutes, 45 minutes of your application, I would go back and retreat that area. I had an experience here a few years ago in Atlantic Beach, actually, area, that the ligostrums around some buildings were spotty on the growth. And it was because we were doing the application to try to meet a window, to try to fit the application within a window instead of waiting a day or two. And it was like scattered showers throughout the whole day. It was not like in the morning only, but it was a little bit throughout the day, very light throughout the day, but enough to wash off the product right after the application, because the guy will go back and retreat some areas, but it will happen again and it will dilute the product on the foliage. So one thing that I would recommend, let's say that you are in the middle of application, you get that event, just postpone it a day or two. You will be better off that way.
Okay.
If you are only getting like a rain event that day, one time, all of a sudden, go back and retrieve those last 30 minutes, 45 minutes of the areas, but let it dry, let it dry for like about an hour before you apply, because then you have too much water on the foliage, and that is going to dilute the chemical, and then you're not going to be as effective. So one of my technicians, that's what he did every time he had that. He had really great results with that, and very good success. But the application process is very simple, so it's nothing complicated. As far as the implementation program is very simple. So we are going to talk about three things: job site preparation, application, which involves the mixing of the product, and we're going to talk about maintenance. So starting with job site preparation, we are going to be treating, let's say you're preparing this site to treat. You want to get the hair streamers out, yes. You want to shape that plant as tight as possible without creating haircuts, right? Just your regular maintenance, nothing different. And then you're going to come behind. For this area, I recommend 3 to 5 day treatment window, mostly because you have eleagnos, you have ligostroms in this area, and that's the window that works best for you. I mean, you can do it later, but then your ligostrum is going to start sprouting a little more. Your eleagnos will sprout too far out, because on the spring especially, they come out of that dormancy per se, and this area particularly really explodes on growth, even with Trimtect. So you want to catch it at that window, particularly if you are doing a spring application. Okay, if you're doing fall, you're doing summer, it's a little more flexible because you have consistent growth throughout the season, but the spring, it really releases that energy, it's going to grow fast. So catch it in there.
That's really what's important. What he's saying is really the breakdowns that I see is when you miss that window. Okay, so it's really, really important, because you guys are actually kind of policing this to make sure that you're applying it at the correct time. You know, if you have a property, 90% of it's trimmed, ready to go, and then you have that 10%, it's like, I got to spray this and get out of here. You know, what's going to happen is you're going to spray that area, and you're never going to get the control that you're looking for. So it's really, really important that you stay within that 3 to 5 day window, especially here in Jacksonville, because as soon as it starts raining, it starts taking off. So be very adamant on making sure you try to stay in that 3 to 5 day window.
Yes.
You know, if you get to 7 days, you're still fine, but if you stick to that 3 to 5, you'll get really great results.
Yeah. Yeah, now if you're gonna get rain and stuff, do it at 7. It's not 6, 7 days. It's not gonna hurt much at all. The biggest breakdown was that at the time how we discovered this is we used to schedule 7-10 days out from the pruning, and by the time, let's say, we got a rain event, we were getting to the property at day 12. That was in reality the biggest part, because we were trying to deal with a weekend, a holiday, or a rainfall event, somebody sick, property not ready, push us behind. Then, you know, that was mainly the thing. 3 to 5 days worked really well we increased the quality of the regulation very well at the time.
In some of these accounts, they were not trimming pretty much, hardly at all. They were just dipping.
Yep.
Because they were of that 3 to 5 day window.
So, all right. So once the property is prepared, we are gonna jump into application. Every time you are preparing the site, though, try to avoid hard cuts. If you do incur into hard pruning, you cannot do the application 3 to 5 days, obviously, because you don't have green growth. So you need to wait for new flush to come out. If you're doing window seals with viburnums, ligostroms, probably you have to be applying those around day 10, 12, when you have new buds being developed. If you are doing true hard cuts, which you are cutting the plant in half, you need to let that plant flush completely, shape it again, and then treat it. Okay? All right. So, but that's the biggest part. You don't do many hard cuts here in Jacksonville, though, but it can happen. If you go further north, haircuts is the way they prune. They only prune like 4 times a year, and they take a whole lot of plant material. All right, as far as the mixing, it's a foliar application, so we are creating a solution for it. The purpose of doing that solution is we are going to make sure that we suppress the production of a hormone that elongates the cells. So the cells of the plants, typically when we prune, we produce a hormone called uracilic acid, and it's going to elongate the cells. Who creates the production of that? We do every time we prune, because we take the canopy out and the plant wants to recover the canopy very quickly. We put Trimtect on it, we suppress that hormone, we don't eliminate it, we suppress it quite a bit. 30 to 70% of the growth is controlled at that point. And that's purely based, like you said, on growth habits of the plant material. We talk about job site preparation. Make sure you prune first and then treat, not treat and prune. Sometimes we get caught up into a building that was left. Oh, I'm gonna tip it next week. No, don't do that. Wait, come back after the trimming is done and treat it, because when the guys come and treat it, the product gets stored into the meristem of the plant. So if applied here, it's gonna go here. This is outside the shape. When you come and remove it, you're removing the Trimtect. So it doesn't serve you the purpose that you're trying to achieve by saving time to come back to the property. Actually, you have to come back and do everything again if you do that. So I did it, and it didn't work. So it helped a little bit, but it didn't help the guys trimming the shrub. So we still. No, because you remove the product out of the plant when you prune.
So it's 100% local system.
Local system. Not that you are not going to have any regulation on the plant, but the ones that you remove are going to be pretty much a bigger pruning event for those stems, and those stems are going to continue to grow. Just the ones that were low and shaped, they're going to stay regulated, so you're going to have only like 50% of regulation. Very effective. You want to try to get the most you can out of the product. So, and it's more about communication, scheduling, and being able to, like, if the spray technician has the space to say, hey, John, this building number 3 is not ready yet. I'm going to stop here. When you're ready, let me know when you schedule it so we can treat it, so we don't waste time on product at the time. So
since these guys are used to Atramac, how is it different than Atramac?
So Atramac, the difference with Atramac, I have used it, not a whole lot, but I use it quite a bit in one property. My dilemma with it is I had to be spraying behind the guys pruning, and it was the same thing for me. I didn't have a spray applicator for it, so we had to do everything. So it was very tough to do like 10 miles of ficus hedge at the time. It helped. The growth control was probably at best 6-8 weeks for me, and then it resumed growth. This is gonna give you 12-16 weeks of growth in this area, and that's just peak regulation. It keeps regulating beyond that point, so it's just gonna start declining very little at a time. So, any other experiences on your end too?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You know, one thing he mentioned
When you're doing the application, it's just like this here today, just shaped, still green, pretty. There's no haircuts. Atramac is a type 1 growth regulator, so it's more on the herbicide family. So it stops mitosis, which is the cell division on the plant. That creates chlorosis in some species, distortion of some of the tips. So the plant is gonna look like it's haircut for a little longer, and it's not gonna look great in reality. So I personally prefer, this is why I like this product when I was using it, that it keeps my plant looking like a plant should be looking, not distortion, transform, curling. You eliminate all of that. Now, if you treat it in down south particularly, we have some species we don't want to be treating. If you treat the hibiscus, yes, it's going to curl the leaves, just like hibiscus pink mealybug damage. But other than that, if it's like 5 species, that we deal with. So, all right. Step one is we're gonna pick up that bucket, that jug of Trimtect, and we are gonna shake it very well for about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute. Then we are gonna use the rate that is recommended for the area. So if you are treating on the spring, we're gonna be using 10 ounce rate. You are treating on the late fall, also 10 ounce rate. So you will either do late fall treatments or spring treatments, okay? Not both, because you will do a late fall treatment to avoid a spring treatment, because it will carry through the summer. If you do a spring treatment, you're still doing a summer treatment, because the spring treatment is going to last you about 3 months to 4 months, and then the summer kicks in, and then you're going to do your summer application. The late fall helps a lot because it will stay on the plant all the way through May, June, and then you do your summer. Yeah, so the dormancy effect keeps the Trimtect on the plant. So we did studies for like 2 years on the area, to where our plant material was still in regulation on beginning of the summer, and it was a better quality regulation than on the spring. So for us here, our late fall is like November, December, Mike, or December through January, or beginning of January. Yeah, so December is like ideal, when after the holidays and beginning of January you can do your treatments, and then it will carry you all the way through there. So like if we are further south in Orlando, it's more like of a January, a little bit on December at the end, and then mostly January, because it's warmer as we go further south. If we are further north, we're doing treatments. I was doing a training on Raleigh yesterday, and they have to rush to do the treatment now, because once they hit November, they cannot do it. The temperatures are too low. So what we're trying to do is apply the product before temperatures hit 50 degrees. That way you have active growth on the plant material.
Daytime temps or nighttime temps?
Night times. What else? Let me take that back. If you are having, typically if you have night times only like for a day or two, it's not gonna shut down translocation. But if you're having consistent nighttime temperatures and daytimes at the same time, then you're gonna be getting into shutting down the plant material, the metabolism of the plant. So definitely watch for your daytime very closely. If those
Especially here, I mean, that can be 2 months apart.
Yeah.
I could have 50 degrees at nighttime and not see 15 a day for
Yeah.
2 or 3 months.
Yeah, so once it warms up, you still get to 3. So, all right, so we have the rate. Step 3 is making sure we know our ingredients. Trimtect, surfactant, 2 milliliters per gallon, audible. Is the surfactant we recommend. Is a non-ionic surfactant. It's 90-10 if you are using the Lesco brand. I recommend using Audible, but if you have Lesco, that works totally fine. I have used it as well. If you have 80-20, use that. That works too. Water, those are the 3 ingredients. So remember, magic number is 3 ingredients. You don't have those 3, make sure you collect them before you start doing applications. So whether you are doing a backpack sprayer application or a spray rig application, stationary pump, you want to add half of the water, just like any chemical. You want to add the chemicals, turn on the pump if it is a stationary pump, so you start the agitation process before you add the Trimtect. Trimtect is very heavy, so it's going to go straight down to the bottom. So the earlier you start the agitation process, the less time you spend agitating at the end, okay? So you add all your chemicals. So if you're doing a 100-gallon tank at a 10-ounce rate, you're gonna be adding 3 2.5-gallon containers of Trimtect. So that'll give you like a 9.6, is rounded to 10 ounces. So that's the rate we use for research. If you're doing 100 gallons at 13-ounce rate, which is on the summer, you're gonna be adding 4 jugs, so 2 cases of Trimtect. All right, and then You top the tank with the water up all the way to the 100-gallon mark. Don't forget to triple rinse your beakers, your containers in this step before you do that. And then let the tank agitate for like about 10 minutes. If you started agitating here. If you forgot to turn it on, do 20 minutes here, and that will be sufficient. Take your spray gun and circulate it into the tank, so you have the same solution in the hose as you have in the tank. Sometimes you can pull in Trimtect into the hose, and when you start spraying, it's like spraying white paint. So like those plants will look really white. That happens, stop spraying, circulate the hose again very well. Stop spraying, go get a backpack sprayer with water or a 1-gallon sprayer with water and rinse those shrubs, so you rinse out the white from the shrubs. You don't want to leave it there because it will be white until you prune it off. It's not going to kill the plant, it's not going to hurt it, it's just going to look bad. Same if you do overspray windows. I recommend having a 1-gallon sprayer to just rinse any overspray. But stop spraying right away and do that, because otherwise you have to come with a rack and a Windex and clean it up. So it's easy to clean up, it's just extra steps. All right. Any questions? Okay, so before we jump into that though, there's a pressure that we recommend to spray. We recommend spraying at a low pressure between 40 to 80 psi. So we don't want to be spraying at 140, 150 psi, because you are going to be using more solution than you should on the same area. So you want to stretch this solution as much as you can. You do that by dropping your pressure. So yes, it takes, it would take 3 to 5 hours to spray 100 gallons, depending on the property. So if you have a big, long hedge that is a perimeter, yes, you can spray 100 gallons in 3 hours, because your spray up and gun time is consistent. If you are doing homes, you're going to be more on the 5-hour mark, because you are constantly pulling hose, stopping, spraying, and going. So, but you want to be doing that, because otherwise you are going to spend too much product. So that's the only recommendation there. Now, a few precautions. So let's jump into herbicides first. Herbicides are I'm very careful with herbicides. They are very easy to use, but it's very easy to grab the wrong tank and spray shrubs for IPM or even growth regulators, and they will create a lot of damage on the plant material or on the turf. So I particularly keep my tanks only for herbicides or for IPM. If you do have that luxury, that's great. If you do not, at least make sure you don't use your Roundup, SureGuard, or non-selective herbicide backpacks to spray Trimtect. Those is like a no-no. For example, SureGuard will stick to the walls even with triple rinsing for 3 years, and it will burn the shrubs. I don't have a picture here. I have a picture on my computer, but I can send that over. But it's very important you don't use non-selective herbicides. I know of customers that they spray from sea sprays, and they use it for herbicide on the turf, but it's selective. So they have been successful on maintaining those clean and not having issues with it. I also have seen properties that they forgot to clean the tank from selective herbicide control, and they burn all the shrubs around on the property. So just be aware of that. So if you are able to keep it completely separate, it's best. So it depends on your operation, of course. But definitely the non-selective it will still damage the shrubs. We talk about cold weather. We definitely are not trying to put Trimtect through irrigation systems. No. I bet somebody did something with that, and that's here because of it. Have great control on a ligustrum tree by level is 8 weeks. If you have no control at all because it got rinsed off, I would say you can't do it right away. But if you are having control and you want to just touch it up, try to keep it at 8 weeks apart, because then you are going to be adding too much product to that plant and could regulate it a little too far from where you want it. If you are reading the label for the rates, you will see ranges, right? So from 6 to 13, or whatever that range is. And then you have 10 species, and all of them have slightly different ranges. So, and the question that I got yesterday, how do we go about choosing a rate so I don't have to be doing 10 different rates in one property? So the way we go about it is most species are treated at 10 ounces in the spring. They all here can be treated at 13 as well, but on the summer. Okay, so you are in a very flexible area where you can do both rates. The only plants that you wanna be aware to stay away from for you is if you have hibiscus, we don't have very many here, completely stay away. But the azaleas and drift roses is at 7 ounces always. It doesn't matter whether it's summer or spring or late fall, 7 ounces. If you are doing spring, you don't want to be treating azaleas because you are like at the end of the cycle of the blooming. So you're still on bloom, just keep them at that time. If you do the late fall, just go ahead and treat it, and then you just will be doing summer or late fall in reality with azaleas. But other than that, you are in either 10 or 13 ounces with all your species. Eleagnos, if you have a property with a lot of eleagnos and a lot of ligostroms, you could go ahead and do those at 13 pretty much every time. If you want to get like better control, more especially at the beginning. Once you get into the second year, you can drop it to 10 and 13. But the eleagnos is such a beast that, you know, in Texas we treat it at 13 every time, and that's a little further north. But they are also drier there. It's a different climate. So my expectation is like your first tipping is not until like around 6 weeks after the application. Anything around 4 weeks, I would say just hold on until you get to 6 weeks, unless it's completely growing out, because you have a little bit of growth. And at the beginning, even myself, is it continuing to grow or what's going on? So let it go for 2 more weeks. 6-8 weeks is your reality. You're like, okay, this is holding really well, this needs work. And that's how you determine that. So 4 weeks is too early in reality to do any work, unless it's eleagnos probably will tell you right away. Podocarpus will tell you right away. Podocarpus will create like a nice fluff for like about 3 inches. Let it be until it hardens, because what is out of regulation completely will come out of shape. Like it will be like a water sprout on a viburnum or a eleagnos. It will completely come out of shape when it's not regulated. And mainly because Podocarpus, we manage it like a wall, very tight, very compact. You have a lot of haircuts in that process, especially if they are younger plant material. When they are still like 3 years old, you see the trunks of that thing, they are completely hard cut because we are trying to train them. And it takes like 5 years to really get a nice full Podocarpus. So in the process of doing a Trimtect, it takes about a year and a half to get them settled to where you want them. So if you are doing Podocarpus Pringles, they are very easy to regulate. They stay very compact, very low. They do beautiful. So when we're applying, and we're gonna do this on our application, we wanna create an angle on the top that is about 45 degrees to create penetration inside the canopy. You wanna get in there into every stem, every leaf that is on the canopy, because that's what's gonna grow first. This is your biggest pressure on growth. The sides, you are doing at 90 degrees, so you don't have to think about any angle of penetration in it, and it's easy to do the sides. When you are doing the buildings, for example, that section over there, you want to make sure you spray behind the hedge on the wall side, and you do that first. When you lean over the hedge and you spray that first, and then you come on the top and the side, and then you keep moving along. But make sure you spray it because it's going to grow out quite a bit if you let it be. 1 gallon of solution will give you an average of 300 square feet. That's not fertilization area, is the area on the side, on the top, and on the front, including the ends as well.
It's treating to the point of runoff.
Yes. So you're gonna be treating to the point of runoff or spraying to drip. So how do I know if I'm spraying too much or how do I know if I'm spraying too little? Very simple. If you're spraying too little, it looks on the foliage like you missed it. Okay, if you have dry spots on the leaves, that means that you went too quick. So you want to make sure you have a completely wet foliage and stem, especially stems as well. So you want to get it to start dripping. How do I know I'm spending too much time on it? It looks like it's raining on the side of the hedge. And it takes about 10-15 gallons of solution to go through to like adjust your speed at the beginning. Once you get over that, then you're gonna be spot on. It's very easy. At the beginning, if you have a new spray technician that you are training, a lot of people tend to do this or like this when they're spraying. If you are doing systemics, fine, but also creates a risk problem for you because you're working too hard. So it's better just to do a pass like this, and it's a lot more simple. And we'll do this demonstration how to do it. So it's like painting a car with a spray gun or painting a wall with a spray gun, the same process. And this is what you're looking for, spraying to drip. First we prune, we spray, never spray and prune later on. We don't have too much fall defoliation here, but we do have pruning that we can leave debris on top of the hedge. So it's making sure that we remove that debris every time we prune. And if you have defoliation on the spring, make sure that's cleaned up as well. So the rain fastness, we spoke 30 minutes. And spraying to drip on the leaves and the stems as well. And complete coverage. So as long as you have the coverage and the spray to drip, you're going to have a great related to shrubs here, but it's related to weed management. So this can be mixed. So this is outside shrubs completely. This can be mixed with some herbicides to achieve better control on some herbaceous woody ornamental weeds. And there's a list of those here. But just wanted it's used on right-of-ways. There's a company in Hong Kong that they use it to regulate weeds on the railroad tracks because they are not allowed to use herbicides, for example. So they weed whack or control mechanically the weeds and use Trimtect as a tool. It's like where you're trying to do around areas that you have a lot of rocks. Same concept. You spray in the grass to regulate it so you don't have to be weed eating it, and could be used around. If you have like those perimeter walls where are just like Brazilian pepper and vines, it works really well on Virginia creeper. I had a perimeter hedge between a neighbor and I trimmed that thing and I sprayed Trimtect on it, and I didn't have to trim that for like 3 months. And the Virginia creeper literally grew this much in 6-8 weeks, which it can go from here to Mike very easily. A certification program available that shows what the office training I do is. It has like slides of pictures of how to prune, how to show the teams, how to maintain the shrubs. I'm gonna go grab my hand pruners and we're gonna work some beds before we treat, so we can show you that live here on the property. One to prepare and one what it looks like to maintain. I'm gonna leave this with you too. But so there's a few solutions for growth regulation in the landscape, not only Trimtect. So for shrubs we have Trimtect, of course. Small trees like ligustrum that you can spray from the ground. We have a shepherd's hook that will help you reach the tops. That's very useful, especially here. You have hedges that are 6 foot tall. A shepherd's hook is you attach it to the backpack sprayer or your tank, and it gives you that extension. It's an 8006 nozzle flat fan, so it gives you like that razor effect on the penetration. So it's a slower process on spraying, but it helps you that. So now the other thing is trees. We have Campfield as a tree growth regulator. Sometimes you have ligustrum trees that you want to regulate and they are on a spot that you are not able to spray because there's structure, windows, people all the time, other shrubs like azaleas right underneath or grass that you don't want to create that drip line and over-regulate something. So you can use a tree growth regulator for those trees that you apply at the ground. Okay, so that's one solution. Trimtect is good for ground covers, so like Asiatic jasmine, and I'll show you a picture in a little bit. But this is the Campfield that regulates trees. So that's good for 2 years under maintenance conditions, like we do in landscape. If you're doing like right away trees, they are more looking at 3 years because you are not doing any pruning on them, pretty much. So this, for example, is a treated tree here with Campfield, and this isn't treated. You see how more compact, greener it looks. If you have office buildings that have a lot of hollies that are standards, Campfield could be a solution. Or if you use a shepherd's hook, you can spray them very comfortably around those buildings. So this is a untreated and treated Trimtect example here, but I wanted to show you is this here. So this is Asiatic jasmine. So Asiatic jasmine has a lot of torpedo grass, oxalis, different types of weeds that grow inside. So that's the biggest part of maintaining Asiatic jasmine is managing weeds, and never looks good. So if you use Trimtect, not only you regulate the Asiatic jasmine, but you will over-regulate the weeds that grows within it, and it will stay clean. So that's one of the things that sold me when Mike did demos for me like 8 years ago or so. It works really well on, creeping fig. So if you have walls with creeping fig, it will control that. So University of North Florida was using Trimtect to regulate their one of the buildings that grows like 2-3 stories up.
They actually want you guys to treat them for them if you're willing to do that.
Oh, cool. So, yeah. So, and back in the day, we did the applications for them, and they kept it only at one pruning just before the application, just because they had to prepare and remove a freeze dryers that were coming out. The biggest thing for them was that it got so heavy without regulation that it will detach from the walls, because that can be aggressive, an aggressive grower product. So those are 2 examples. This is your Elaeagnus. I mean, I'll take these runners any day versus this. So, and that's just like 8 weeks of growth. So.
Bring up juniper and
Indian hawthorn is a plant that you can regulate, but it has a secondary benefits to where it will enhance the look of the plant. It will control to a degree the leaf spot, and it will look a lot healthier. So it will stop declining because Trimtect is on the fungicide family. Insect in the fungicide family, so it will help control anything that is fungus. Actually, was back in the 50s was being used as a fungicide, but it has secondary effects of growth regulation, so they table it. So it's not the greatest fungicide, but it does help with that. Promotes blooming on Indian hawthorn. What was the other one?
It also helps a lot with the torpedo grass too that grows in the Indian hawthorn.
Yes.
Because what tends to happen,
everything looks shaped before you treat. So for the guys, they will come with a gas shear because that's more efficient, and they're gonna prepare it. So it's making sure that everything stays within the shape, like this. So you wanna do the backs, the sides, everything that you need to address at the time. So you don't wanna leave anything unattended. So when you are doing the property, make sure every bed, every shrub is addressed prior to the application. Sometimes you have maintenance crews like, oh, we're gonna hit the viburnums this week. We're gonna hit the Elaeagnus every 2 weeks. If you, after the application, that's totally fine. You wanna do that. But before the application, you want to make sure all the species are addressed so you can spray everything at the same time. Otherwise, you have to be coming back 20 times until you get all the property done. But everything has to be checked. Everything has to be under shape. Now, let's assume we already treated the property. what we want to train our crews is to inspect and prune or tip only what's needed. Because if I come with gas shears and trim all of these, Trimtect will be stored on the meristem and we are removing it. So if they are like here, if we just tip this much, we're gonna be removing the Trimtect that is at the end. So we wanna tell the crews is just, okay, this is outside the shape, this is outside the shape, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. Of trimmings from on your hands or on a bucket. So you can carry a bucket on a parking lot and you can do this, all these islands with one bucket on one person in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. You know, this will take you hours of work with 3 guys, just blowing, cleaning, picking up, raking, all of that, and you will have still like a lot of leaves on the ground. It looks terrible. So we want to make sure we're efficient on how we go about doing the service when we are pruning. Now, the other things that we want to teach our guys is, okay, you see a weed growing in here, take the time now to clean those weeds that we normally don't have the time to clean. It will take us probably 3 visits to get those weeds cleaned up. Then after that, you will have it under control. For the other 9 months on the property, you're gonna be cruising just doing this. And if one weed starts popping through, you will address it. But yes, at the beginning, you have hundreds of those to address because we never had the time to actually get a shovel out of the truck, remove the root out of that weed so we don't have to deal with it again. Now you have the time to do that thing. Create quality on the property. Stand out from the guy across the street. And eventually you get the call from across the street and you will do the same across the street. What are they doing on your side, right? So I want to have the same look on your property. So improve the look of the property by doing that. Anything else you want to add? It was the first customer I helped train. It was a big team. And at the beginning they were nervous about, hey, I still have to come back and do some work here, right? So it's like, no, that's expected. So let's go to the property, bring the teams there, and show them how to do it. So we took 2 guys in one house, 2 guys in another house, and we went at it. So we came out with like just under half a bucket each house of debris. Mostly was a little bit of this and invasive weeds that we were pulling out of the hedges. And it's like, that's all you need to be doing. They save, they were spending they had a crew of 3 in there. They were spending 45 minutes at home. So that was 1.5 hours, 2 hours and a quarter man hours per house every time they went to that property. And they went down to like 15 minutes, 2 guys. All right, so when we are gonna start out doing applications, we need to take into consideration the health of the plant at the time we are doing the application. So all these hedges to me look fantastic here. That Indian hawthorn, that ligustrum here. Now this Asiatic jasmine to me looks on the unhealthy side of things, so I would hold on from applying this section because it's not full. There's some very small leaves here on this area. So actually I will do something to promote growth here instead and get it to grow well, fertilize it or what's needed for it. That bed over there looks pretty good to treat. It's not looking terrible at all. What I see there is weeds, so I will just have it shaped. I would not even pull the weeds out. I will just shape it and spray it, and it will regulate those weeds as well. As far as new plants, sometimes you do enhancements on the property. So let's say that you fill in this hedge here, and you're trying to create those plants are gonna be like this, very small. So don't spray those until they get to the size. So every time we are trying to do applications, there's 3 things that we take into consideration: size, shape, and density. Okay, the size, we impact that. So the plant will give us the size too, but we impact that by making sure they're already there. If they are not there, you have to stay away from spraying. The shape, we create that. So that's we create that shape for the customer, and that's based on expectations. And the density, that is full, is branching in, is looking healthy. It's not gonna be perfect, like that is over there, it's kind of weak on the middle, that's fine to treat. Eventually that's gonna start growing with the growth regulator. So the growth regulator is gonna eliminate the vertical growth, and it's gonna promote all the internal growth instead. Which in turf, with Primo, you call that tillering, which is your horizontal growth. The same here on this process, just on shrubs. Okay. Primo or Trimtect Select is also a type 2 growth regulator, just like Trimtect. One is a type A and the other one is a type B. One works on the early stages and one works on the late stages of suppressing gervilic acid. But they achieve the same goal. They both suppress gervilic acid. They both get the plant greener in that case. Okay? And it's also, if you're doing the turf, it's all about coverage. If you leave a section that is not covered, with Trimtect Select, it will grow out. Weed control is important when you're doing turf growth regulation, because otherwise you're going to start to see a difference in growth because of the weeds that are in it. So it's important to manage the weeds accordingly. The biggest weed that you got to worry about when doing Trimtect Select on turf is sedges. That is like, you put fertilizer on that section, it's going to like stand out really well on the turf. But other than that, most weeds kind of blend in. Once they get to like 2 weeks of growth is when you're gonna start to see like the crabgrass, all the other stuff that is gonna start standing out from the San Agustin. That's what you gotta level the grass every 10 days at least. Okay. In that case. But well, let's start spraying.
Cool.
This is the connection I was talking to him about, the swivel. So if the hose breaks here, you can cut that hose here, throw this piece away, and you just need two pieces. This is 2 pieces here, and then the screws out, and then you put the screw in the hose on the inside, and then put the other piece over it, and it will tighten it. Okay. It's better than a clamp. Yeah. And this has a swivel. There's some that come with a swivel, but this is easy because your hose, as you're reeling it in, it stays. Every time you switch sides, you twist the hose, so this keeps it from. Yeah. This way. Over there. That's good. That's good. A little more. I'm gonna do a full. All right, so now we are ready to spray. We have done the mixing. One thing that we just did, we adjusted the pressure to around 50-60 psi on the sprayer, so remember to do that every time. That will save you a lot of product on the process. So we are getting ready to start treating here, and I'm gonna start treating the backs only, so I don't get wet by treating the fronts first. So I always wanna make sure I do the backs first. So the process to do that is like this. Then I'm going on the top. Remember that angle of penetration, at least 45 degrees. And this pretty much the amount of water you are putting on or solution is just wet. If you see here, you can see here closely, there's a lot of big water drops on the leaves. That's because we don't have surfactant on the water, so it doesn't flatten and break away the water tension. So you're gonna have that right now. But with Trimtect, and that's gonna be like a flat surface there. Then I keep going like this. You are able to increase the pressure a little more if you would like. It feels on the low side, but you're welcome to do that anytime. So sometimes we have 2 layers of hedges, so we have to make sure we spray the backs of both hedges, the fronts and everything. So I start with the interior hedge lines always. You gotta be careful around AC lines because you have all the conduit lines and you don't want to break them in the process. So I narrow my stream so I don't overspray the units. Also, I'm not spraying the windows by doing that. Make sure you get all the way down to the bottom as well. So I'm gonna leave this area that is looking a little poor, so I'm gonna skip it. So this adjustment here helps you reach out areas that are further away. You can narrow your stream so you are not overspraying the AC units or windows, things like that. You don't want to spray that little bit of ligustrum from here. You want to make sure you get there and spray that over there away from the window. I just sprayed the little, as close as that I could get comfortably without spraying that wall and window. So that wall is red. So if you overspray that wall with this, it's gonna be pretty white. So you wanna make sure you position yourself away from structures. And this pretty much it. The main thing is coverage. So if you don't get your bottom parts very well, you're gonna get growth on the bottoms. If you don't get the backs, you're gonna get growths on the backs. Very important to do that and get there. So just make sure you get this side here because otherwise that's gonna get creeping into the plant material. I have gotten service calls related to that when I was doing the spraying because my guys didn't go in and spray the bag in that case. So, and also the other part is teaching the crews that every so often you need to tip that area, especially before the application. Don't let it be without pruning because that's gonna get on the wall and then the guys are gonna be constantly pruning that area. It's gonna be hard for them. And that's part of training with them. So if the applicator sees that that's not pruned, let them know, hey, please prune that area so we can come and treat, and that way we can take care of that. So if we are treating the juniper, the coverage is the same. You're not trying to drench the area either, but you are trying to put a good volume of solution so it reaches the width underneath it. So, and then we'll go like this. I will not mist it, but I will go like this. to make sure you get on the inside. And you can raise the pressure a little bit here to get more product inside. I'm going slow because the pressure is fairly low. Actually, you could raise it a little more, so I will raise it a little more. This pressure is great if you are working around windows. If you are working on common areas, you can increase it a little bit because you can speed up the process. You're trying to be careful with windows in this section. Okay. Which, if you spray them, then you're gonna be doing a lot of cleanup. So that's help matters if you go quicker. Yeah. So.
Jerry, you want to spray the rest of these?
I'll go pull some hose.
I think I'd come out of there in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, something got loose and got moved over. You can see. Right. So just be organized on your application, and just the key is coverage and penetration. Okay. So never rush it. You'd rather be on the heavier side a little bit at the beginning until you pick up the. If you are too light, then you're not achieving regulation. You will achieve regulation if you go a little heavier. It takes about 15-20 gallons of solution to get there, so don't feel nervous about it.
Don't spray the ones like that. Paint filled in the bottoms or.
No, that's good to treat because they are normally like that. What I'm talking about is more like the one that is sick over there.
Okay.
It's unhealthy. These ligustrum typically look like this. So this is as good as you're gonna get it. Now the ones that are over there, I would still treat them, but if there are any less than that, I would not. Okay. They are healthy, they are full, but they are not gonna get any fuller.